A man lunges forward, his teeth buried deep into the flesh of another. The body beneath him bends backward, twisted beyond balance, caught between resistance and collapse. Muscles strain, limbs interlock, and neither figure seems capable of breaking free. This is not a moment of impact. It is a moment that refuses to end. William-Adolphe Bouguereau's Dante and Virgil captures a scene from Dante's Inferno, but it does not unfold like a story. It holds. The violence is suspended, contained within the frame, repeating itself in stillness. At first glance, the image feels chaotic. Two bodies locked together, raw and immediate. But the longer one looks, the more controlled it becomes. The central figures form a diagonal knot across the canvas. Every limb is positioned with precision. Every tension is deliberate. There is no randomness here, only structure. The attacker is Gianni Schicchi. The man being bitten is Capocchio. Both are condemned souls in the eighth circle of hell among the falsifiers. To understand what is happening, it helps to understand what that means. In Dante's vision, falsifiers are those who distorted reality itself. Alchemists, impostors, counterfeiters, people who manipulated truth for their own ends. Their punishment reflects this distortion. Identity collapses. Boundaries dissolve. Violence becomes intimate. Schicchi does not simply attack Capocchio. He consumes him. The bite is central to the entire scene. It is not symbolic in a distant way. It is direct, physical, unavoidable. It bypasses reason entirely. There is no strategy in the gesture, no calculation, only instinct, almost animal. And this is where the painting begins to shift in meaning, because the violence is not presented as chaotic or uncontrolled. It is rendered with clarity. Every muscle is defined, every tendon is visible. The bodies are not distorted in pain, they are perfected in it. And that perfection makes the brutality harder to ignore. Just beside the struggle stand two other figures, still, composed, detached. One wears the laurel crown of a poet, the other stands beside him, calm and observant. They are Dante and his guide, Virgil. They do not intervene. They do not move towards the violence. They do not react with shock or urgency. They observe. And through them, the viewer is placed into the same position. Not inside the violence, but close enough to feel it, witnessing it without the ability to stop it. This is not accidental. Bouguereau structures the scene so that the viewer shares Dante's role. We are not participants. We are witnesses. And that distance becomes part of the tension. Because to witness suffering without the ability to act is its own form of discomfort. Behind the central figures, the world deepens. A winged infernal presence appears in the background, emerging from shadow. It is not sharply defined, but it does not need to be. Its form is enough to suggest something inhuman, something observing rather than intervening. It watches. Around it, other figures appear, partially visible, partially obscured. Some twist in unnatural poses. Others seem caught mid-motion, as if their struggles continue beyond the frame. They are not individuals with clear identities. They are part of the environment, and this changes how the painting is understood. This is not a single act of violence. It is a condition. Hell in this image is not a place where events unfold and conclude. It is a place where states repeat, where suffering does not escalate or resolve. It continues. The background does not distract from the central action. It reinforces it. Everywhere the eye moves, there is the suggestion of the same pattern repeating itself. At first, the composition may feel overwhelming, but the longer one studies it, the more structured it becomes. The bodies form a visual loop. The eye is drawn into the central knot and then pulled back again and again. There is no escape from the core of the painting. Only return, and that is what creates the sense of permanence. Because the image does not guide the viewer forward, it traps them. This is where Bouguereau's training becomes visible in the strongest way. He was a master of academic painting, trained in a system that valued precision, anatomy, and idealized form. The human body, in this tradition, is studied, refined, perfected. And that is exactly what we see here. The bodies are not distorted in agony. They are balanced, proportional, almost classical in their clarity, and yet they are locked in brutality. That contradiction is central to the painting's impact, because the more refined the bodies appear, the more disturbing the violence becomes. Bouguereau is not exaggerating the scene to make it shocking. He is clarifying it. He sharpens the violence by removing chaos. By making every detail visible, he removes any distance the viewer might rely on. It feels exact, unavoidable. This painting was created early in his career at a time when he was trying to establish himself within the academic world. It was connected to his attempt to prove that he could combine technical mastery with intellectual depth. The choice of Dante was not accidental. It allowed him to bring together literature, anatomy, and emotional intensity in a single composition. It gave him permission to depict violence, tension, and even grotesque imagery within an accepted artistic framework. But what makes this painting stand out is how that skill is used. Later in his career, Bouguereau became known for very different works: soft figures, mythological scenes, calm, luminous compositions, paintings that emphasize beauty, grace, and harmony. Here, that same technical perfection is used for something else: tension, violence, psychological entrapment. It reveals a different aspect of his artistic ability, one that is less about ideal beauty and more about confrontation. Other artists approached Dante in different ways. Delacroix filled his interpretations with motion and emotional turbulence, allowing colour and movement to dominate the experience. Doré expanded Dante's world into vast, overwhelming landscapes, where scale itself becomes part of the emotional impact. Bouguereau does the opposite. He compresses the scene. He isolates a single moment and forces it to remain. That decision changes the experience completely. Because instead of witnessing a narrative unfolding over time, the viewer is held inside a single, unresolved state. And that state becomes the meaning of the painting. What is happening here is not only physical, it is psychological. The figures are not just fighting. They are defined by the act itself. The violence becomes identity, and that idea extends beyond the painting. Because human conflict rarely exists as a single moment. It repeats, it reinforces itself, it becomes pattern. Bouguereau captures that pattern and freezes it. The result is unsettling, not simply because it shows violence, but because it suggests permanence. In the end, Dante and Virgil is not just a painting about hell. It is a painting about what happens when something does not pass, when action becomes identity, when conflict becomes a state of being. The figures remain locked together. Dante and Virgil remain beside them. The background remains restless. Nothing resolves. Nothing releases. And that is why the image lingers. Because it does not show violence as something that happens. It shows violence as something that continues.